Hi! So, Exdous has released, and it's gameplay trailer, and we're going to just go over it. It says it's the Traveler's Creed. Also, this has been a segment that was cut off from a VOD that I did of the stream. That'll be in the link description if you want to do that. We went through over some stuff like The Witcher 4 gameplay trailer. Not gameplay trailer, I mean, just gameplay stuff, just visual stuff. But for this, we're going to basically just go through this and analyze it and talk about it, you know? We're going to be pausing, skipping, and if I talk to some unknown people, it's going to be the YouTube chat. So, let's go. Also, hi, Black Sabbath, if you're doing well.
Preparing to transfer now. This is your last chance to bail, June.
Do it.
Bail, June, okay. As for gameplay, it's not already the gameplay.
Loaded weapon is a hell of a way to greet your new partner.
So you're June.
We're burning time. Now that we're all best of friends, let's make each other rich.
I'm not just here to look pretty. I've got away with celestial tech.
I see a lot of potential in this new partnership.
Let me light the way for you.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so a couple of things so far. One is the sort of reasoning why we're here. It seems like June's there because of a partnership, not necessarily because of any big quest. That's interesting. It's very different from like Mass Effect does it. Mass Effect's story starts off with Commander Shepard is on the maiden voyage of the Normandy SR-1, going to Ian Prime, one of the first colonies humanity successfully, launched. And now we're going to basically, right, just take it as a trial run, go back to the council, and ooh, dandy, we're good. And Shepard is also being tested to be a Spectre. Okay, cool. No, it's actually going to be a huge kerfuffle, and it's actually going to be the start of a trilogy. This one is very small. I'm not sure if this is going to be something bigger and whatnot. Especially, yeah, maybe it's going to be something a bit bigger. But like the way they set up June, his character is June is this child of a celestial and a legendary traveler, right? And I imagine there would be a lot more to it. And June's voice as well is not as I think iconic or immediately recognizable as like a Shepard-like thing, right?
I see a lot of potential in this new partnership.
Let me light the way for you.
Target acquired. Many thanks again for your help.
Talking toads. Let me just find where June's talking quickly.
Celestial tech. I've got away with celestial tech.
Yeah, like, I've got away with celestial tech. Like, yeah. Not sounding like Commander Shepard.
Let me light the way for you.
Not as memorable. Yeah, not as memorable, right? Not as immediately recognizable as, like, the main protagonist, Which I imagine they might be doing something different from Shepard.
Target acquired.
Stealth in my video game? This isn't Mass Effect. Mass Effect never had stealth.
Many thanks again for your
Talking
help.
You should have been honest.
This place is forbidden.
It's also interesting we haven't seen any dialogue, right? Yeah, it kind of does look like a bit of a AA game. Like, which I don't think is bad visually, Zoltan. Yeah, it does look like a game from... Yeah, it does look like a game. It has a Eurojank to it, yeah.
Target acquired.
What European is on this development studio?
Many thanks again for your help.
Mars or whatever.
You should have been honest.
Mars or
This place is forbidden.
I do like the enemy design here. It's sort of like
The price is death.
That's what it means to be a traveler.
Okay, cool. And again, the way he says this is supposed to be like a big line, a big like cinematic, we're here.
That's what it means to be a traveler.
That's what it means to be a traveler. Like, it doesn't sound like Commander Shepard. Yeah, and that is Exdous. Yeah, okay. So as a gameplay trailer, I mean, it demonstrates the gameplay like good enough, which is. Did you like Andromeda? Well, this is Andromeda gameplay, which a lot of people won't really dislike, because people said the good thing about Andromeda was its like gameplay. So not a lot of people like that, but I think for a lot of people who are coming at this from a Mass Effect perspective, I think they might be a bit disappointed.
Loaded weapon.
One of the things that makes Mass Effect such a iconic and much more engaging franchise than a lot of others is the main character you play as. Commander Shepard, both Femship and Maleship by Mark Meir and Jennifer Hale, are carrying everything, okay? Their presence is what really makes those games. And I imagine if you got any other voice actor, they would not carry as well. You know, they just wouldn't. And then the first time we hear of Jun, you know, who is supposed to be this like very legendary figure. Again, they are the child of a legend, not just some traveler, not just some born traveler, a legendary traveler. You know, someone who just like is well known, and a celestial. And they sound like
Loaded weapon is a hell of a way to greet your new partner.
especially the way I think that line is kind of delivered kind of doesn't feel like a Commander Shepard like character, which is obviously not necessarily what they're going for, but I do feel like for people who are looking for a Mass Effect, like spiritual successor of Mass Effect, they're not going to get a Commander Shepard like character, you know? Mir and Hale were perfect. Yeah, Zeroton, they were perfect. That's what it means to take it. Yeah, Zoltan, that is so true, you know? That's what it means to take a arrow to the knee. That's pretty good. But yeah, gameplay wise, I mean, it looks like Andromeda, which this is not me saying that's bad or whatever, right? I don't think it being similar to Andromeda is bad. It doesn't have the booster pack, but it does have like gravity. And we did see beforehand there was this like traversal mechanic, which probably is going to be implemented for puzzles and stuff. Where was it? It's where the guy uses it to like slingshot over like a gap, which I'm not necessarily sure, because Andromeda, due to the nature of having a jump pack, means that it has platforming puzzles and stuff. And since Exdous has a grappling hook, it's most likely also going to... Oh, there it is. It's also most likely going to have a grappling hook. Okay. So a grappling hook means it's going to have... it's going to have like traversal puzzles, which I'm not necessarily sure how I feel about. I don't think it's bad. Also, one thing I find is weird. The trailer title says the Traveler's Creed, but what's the Traveler's Creed? You know, even the description says, as they sacrifice their lives to travel through the Centauri universe on a dangerous mission to save an isolated, awakened civilization from enslavement by Celestials. Our service, our sacrifice, discover worlds, seed hope, break empires. We are the Okay. So there it is, but I'm not necessarily sure if you can feel that throughout the trailer, because we're not really given context to why they're here, right? Here we have them talking like, oh, that's a weird way to meet your partner, and then we have him.
We're burning time. Now that we're all best of friends, let's make each other rich.
Yeah, make each other rich, right? Like, isn't that kind of weirdly antithetical to the Traveler's Creed, which is our service, our sacrifice, discover worlds, seed hope, break empires? Why do you say we become rich? You know, which I think is an odd thing to say. But yeah, we'll go through the trailer one more time just to spot any things that we might see. Yeah. It lacks the weight Shepard had, the voice. Yeah. The voice is really what made Mass Effect really weighty. and that lack, I think, does hurt the game a bit. My favorite space contraption, the gravity grappling hook. Yeah, man, yeah. So, we went through the trailer. Hi. And now we're going to go through just like bit by bit and just see how everything. First up, I want to talk about is the armor here, which I like the armor. It's very sleek. It's very like secure. But and throughout this video, I'm going to make a ardent effort to talk about how this is similar to like Mass Effect. This isn't like how Mass Effect looks at all. If you look at like Mass Effect armors, this is more similar to like how Mass Effect 1's armors were, which were very like skin tight, except for like the Colossus armor, which was the exception, like end game armor. But for most people, they didn't really see it. Like most Mass Effect armor is this like bulky kind of like thing, right? And especially what is very noticeable is we don't really have boob plate armor, you know. So in that way, it's not really like a spiritual successor in the design aspects of it. Like here, even like Mass Effect's bulkiest armor is not as big as the. Oh wait, no, this is mods. Sorry, that's irrelevant. That's not. Huge. Now this is Mass Effect armor. A terrible color scheme on a terrible armor. Like Mass Effect's armor looked like this, and this is what Exdous looks most similar to. It's very sleek. It's very like not noticeable, you know. So for people who liked Mass Effect 2's and 3's armors, you're not getting that, you know.
Preparing to transfer now. This is your last chance to bail, Jun.
Do it.
Now that's a weird thing for them to say, because why did they say that? You know, last chance to bail Jun. Like, again, we need more like backstory on who Jun is and why Jun is doing this, which we will only get when we play the game or they release like a an hour playthrough of the
This is
video.
your last chance to bail, Jun.
Do it.
I will say though, and I wanted to mention this quickly.
This is your last chance to
Jun's armor. I do like Jun's armor. I wonder what like its symbol means. Where is it? Oh gosh darn, there was a nice shot.
for now.
There was a nice shot of it. There it is. Yeah, there's sort of like line imagery, golden with a sort of silver gray. I like it.
Jun.
Do it.
As for like the enemy designs and stuff, I do like them. You know, they're very like slick, robotic. You know, it definitely fits the vibe that they're trying to go for. You know, this one. And this one is interesting as well. Obviously a mech rusted up. Could be like some more commercial. It's interesting. And here's the one thing: they find people who say this is like Exodus is trying to be hard sci-fi. I'm sorry, man. I'm not necessarily sure there's any scientific papers that will say like, yes, this can actually be a possibility. Like we can form structures like bridges out of nothing, right? That's more of a realm of space opera. A lot of scientists would say like it's possible, but they don't know if it's likely, right? It's like how all scientists will say that is it possible for us to have instantaneous fast and light travel? A lot of them will say it is possible, but not a lot of them will say like, yeah, this is true. Also, another thing I want to say that I do find, I want to point out as well, this is a very Andromeda looking moment, you know, from the bridges forming to the sort of like sleek armor here to the sort of like wide open spaces, you know. It does feel very Andromeda-esque. Grappling hook. Now this is like really interesting. I like this. I'm not sure what it is, but I like it. Now this is one thing that I find very interesting when it compares to Mass Effect. Mass Effect had neon signs like this. You know, it had its like silver strip and stuff like that. Silver sun strip. Like it had this. It had its like big neon signs and stuff like that. It did have this aesthetic, but this is a lot more less sci-fi, right? And this is maybe part of what Exdous is trying to do, which is where this is where the time dilation thing happens, where when you come back to this place, it'll look different, you know. But it is very interesting, like aesthetic wise, because this is not how Mass Effect looked aesthetically, right? Mass Effect didn't have like didn't look like it had physical stuff. A lot of it looked like holograms, you know. The Silver Sun strip looks like most of this is just holograms. The Armax arena doesn't look like it has like actual like neon tubes in the shape of Armax arena, nor does like Tiber's towers or any of this, right? It looks just like holograms, you know, but this doesn't, which is interesting because it looks much more realistic, and by that more generic, which I'm not necessarily sure is what a lot of people would call Mass Effect's art style.
Loaded weapon is a hell of a way to greet your new partner.
And again, as I said before during this video, I don't really think Jun's voice is very appropriate to like a Commander Shepard like thing, right? Especially the way he approaches it. Commander Shepard isn't necessarily
Loaded weapon is a hell of a way to greet your...
Like, it's very clear that Jun isn't like phased by this, but the way Commander Shepard, like Mark Mir would have said this, is a lot more impactful, a lot more weighty. Like, you should listen to him, you know. Well, Jun is more like a bit of a sarcastic, almost like Han Solo-ish figure, you know. Which is another point I want to make as well, which is kind of sounds like Tom Taylorson's writer in the mannerisms and the tone, right?
A hell of a way to greet your new partner.
So you're June.
We're burning time. Now that
I
we're
will
all,
say that I do think this game is very beautiful, you know?
now that we're all best of friends, let's make each other rich.
Because like so much of the imagery we've had here is very like gorgeous and very, like, I think evocative in many ways, you know?
Just here to look pretty.
And again, I do think this is weird that maybe the start of the story is framed as Jun
Friends,
wanting
let's make
to
each
get
other
rich, you know?
I'm not just here to look pretty. I got away with celestial tech.
Sorry, Zoltan. For some reason, my chat wasn't updating. Let me quickly go through. Enemies are cool, but yeah, kind of. You can definitely tell, Zoltan, you make a good point. You can definitely tell that this guy kind of looks like maybe if it was in a Destiny expansion of involving the Fallen, right? The Alexi. It's like, oh, the Alexi have gotten even madder with machines now. They've like created these four-armed creatures, you know. It even has like the sort of multiple eyes that an Alexi has, right? The main character is just a guy. Yeah, he's just a dude, you know. He's just a guy. A more formal Rook. Yeah, kind of a more formal Rook.
Friends, let's make each other rich.
I'm not just here to look pretty.
Interesting device to open it up.
I got away with celestial tech.
Especially the way he says it like that. Like, I got away with celestial tech. Like, Commander Shepard would have been very, like, serious in that way. Like, I know how to handle celestial tech, right? Or, like, even, like, the Renegade option would have been, like, I know how to do celestial tech. Paragon is, like, I have an ability that allows me to utilize celestial tech, right? Well, Neutral is more of an in-between. Also, I do want to reference, again, Andromeda. This is, again, hand stretching out. And I'm not necessarily sure if it's just me. I do want people to, like, tell me, like, hey, is this just me? Am I just, like, seeing too much of this, you know? Am I, like, seeing something where nothing actually exists? But, like, look at this, right? Like, arms stretching, like over here, right? Like, arm is literally stretching out in a sort of similar fashion towards something, you know? Obviously not in the same context or the same ideas or whatever, but it definitely looks similar enough where I feel like there's something going on here. And I'm not necessarily sure if it's intentional or not. You know, holy shit, they just said, let's make a drama. Yeah, it kind of does, you know? Or maybe this person sounds like Starfield main character they voiced. Yeah, it does give me that vibe as well, Zeralton. Because for those who don't know, Starfield was actually going to have a voice protagonist. And in one of the New Game Plus things you can have, you can actually hear your character talk, and that character was supposed to be like a voice protagonist. I can't necessarily find it now, but yeah, like you can see like this is I think supposed to be your character, right? But described for this reason. Okay, but which anyways, not to the point. They did have that, and you could meet them. I will say one thing that I love that Exdous does that I don't particularly like a lot of sci-fi settings doing, is where's the helmet in most scenes, right? I love that Exdous is just like, oh yeah, this is how a helmet is put on. The helmet just like opens up, you know, which is like pretty cool. Let's slow this down, okay, to see this, okay? 0.25 times speed. Just opens up and then closes. I love this. I love it when Dead Space did it, and I love it when any other game does it, because it makes so much sense to me, and it also just makes it taking it off for like cutscenes where you have to see your character's face a lot more nicer. But one thing I do think that is odd is another thing I want to point out is the helmet isn't as cool as like Mass Effect's like N7 helmet. You know, again, if this is supposed to be a bit of a spiritual successor to Mass Effect, I imagine it should, in some ways... Hold on, let me 2 times slow this down. In some ways, it should have the armor designs look at least somewhat iconic as well. Because this is supposed to be like the first armor you get in the game. And there's nothing that beats like Mass Effect, like the N7 armor, right? The N7 armor from Mass Effect, right? Like, this is just, like, too evocative and too... It ensures that you understand what, like, an N7 is on so many levels and, like, who Shepard is as a character, you know? This is just, like, what they look like. This is what they should look like. It feels right. Exodus, though, just doesn't necessarily feel like that, you know? Ooh, and... Now this is another one of the Awakened, which are apparently like animals that can talk, which I find interesting. I don't necessarily think it's bad that these animals exist. I do think it's very creative in the sense that, oh, Celestials have like experimented on animals, and they've been given these abilities. But I want to know why, though. You know, why animals of these kinds? You know, or why Awakened? Also, it does look very... Because Mass Effect was never, like, a boss fighting game. That was never really the point, but it does seem like boss fights will be a lot more involved environmentally, you know? The most environmental boss fight was, like, the Shadow Broker, where you had to shoot that giant orb at the sky, and then when you did, it's like, oh, it hurt them, destroy the shields, and you can attack them. Hello, Random Wanderer, hope you're doing well. I probably have to go again soon. No, that's cool. Thanks for joining, you know. And as I was saying, it does seem like the boss fights will be a lot more involved.
I see a lot of potential in this.
Also, yeah, sorry. Also, Omniplay.
I see a lot of potential in this new. I see a lot of potential in this new partnership.
Okay.
Let me light the way for you.
Target acquired.
Again, stealth mechanics. I wonder how involved stealth will be in Exdous. Because Mass Effect was never really a stealth game. There were infiltration missions, but never really like we did stealth because stealth, you know? So I wonder how involved that'll be.
Many thanks again.
Again, another like Awakened where they talk and speak, and I'm not necessarily sure how I feel about it. It is interesting. I don't think it's bad. I don't necessarily think it's Mass Effect though, because Mass Effect never really had these things. They just had us talking to other aliens.
For your help.
You should have been honest.
And apparently the idea of us going there was to save them, but I don't think this trailer established that firmly.
This place is forbidden. The price is death.
That's what it means to be a traveler.
Now, obviously, we don't have any context for this, and I think maybe a lack of context does like harm this maybe a bit more, because I'm not necessarily sure like what's wrong with what's happening, you know. Now that could be just like we need to see more, but I do think like establishing the sex would help. The guy looks good though. I love how scrungly he looks. He looks very dirty, and I love it. And that is Exdous. We went through like all of it, and yeah. Overall, I don't think the trailer is bad. I think the trailer is cool. You know, I do think it is interesting we didn't see any like dialogue like options that we could have selected, especially because like here's the thing, right? When he says that's what it means to be a traveler.
That's what it means to be a traveler.
I wonder if this is gonna be a dialogue choice where we be able to choose it, or if this is just like Jun is talking by themselves, you know? Which I think one of the things that is cool with Mass Effect and like these sort of voice protagonists entirely is that these moments will have a lot more drama depending on the choice you have. So I wonder when we're going to see those kind of things, right? And if this was one of those moments or not. Because throughout this entire time it seems like we've just like let's go back to this one where they nearly shot each other.
Loaded weapon is a hell of a way to greet your...
Yeah, like, this could have felt like, maybe not necessarily the tempo, I guess, but this could have been a great moment to just have an option show up, and then have us to see, like, oh, this is, where we get to choose our options, you know?
Way to greet your new partner.
So you're Jun.
We're burning time.
Yeah. But overall, I think it's a cool trailer. It looks absolutely gorgeous, you know, like that's one of the things that I do think that this game has, which is it looks very pretty. The faces, the animations, everything looks really good. Gameplay looks fun. Andromeda has fun gameplay, who knew? But I guess for more in depth we'll have to see maybe a bit later. So yeah. So this is Exdous. It's cool looking. It looks great visually. It has particularly great facial animations. The combat looks pretty good. The environments look really great. The only thing I can have that may be a bit of an issue is I'm not necessarily seeing where everyone is like so excited for this, you know. I like Bioware games. I'm a fan of Bioware games. I've played a lot of Bioware like cloned games, but I'm not necessarily seeing this. There's something I want to show. And maybe this is just me being a bit nostalgic, me not necessarily examining it right. But here is the 2006 beta gameplay for Mass Effect 1. And this one shows a lot. It shows combat, it shows dialogue, it introduces the world. It does a lot to it, you know, you can hear music playing and everything.
Mass Effect is a bright universe.
And one of the things I think is very important that maybe I think Exdous should have done more of is necessarily showing us how the dialogue system works. Like, again, and the interesting other thing is
A billion lives are hanging in the balance here. I won't let some pissant bartender slow me down.
And Commander Shepard's voice. But we don't necessarily get that same feeling with Jun. Jun sounds good. I like Jun. But if we're saying, hey, let's compare this to Commander Shepard, I don't think Jun fits the bill. I don't think Jun sounds as impactful, as like holding the scene as
Your new
Shepard.
partner.
So you're Jun.
We're burning time. Partner.
So you're Jun.
Especially because like Shepard is a lot more seen as an older character than, you know, like Jun seems to be here. It just doesn't necessarily feel too Mass Effect to me. It looks like a great game, and it is a Bioware game in many respects, because that's at least what it's trying to ape. But I'm not necessarily sure if it's going to be like a Mass Effect game. You know, there's not a lot of like elements to Mass Effect, especially with some of the designs, like with its boss fight, right? Mass Effect was never really about its boss fights, you know? And the fact that we don't really see anything involving the story is something I find very odd. It looks great. I'm excited for it, and I do want to go for it. But I do think for anyone who's like hyping this up as the next Mass Effect game, you know, I do think I should say you should be wary with caution, you know. careful, because you might be disappointed that it's not actually literally just Mass Effect, but again. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, mayhaps like and subscribe. And if you really enjoyed it, comment down below and tell me about this. What do you think of Exdous? Do you feel like it's Mass Effect? Do you feel like it's not? Tell me down below. I hope you enjoy your day.